This is episode, can't even believe it,
Oh my
300.
God.
Timothy Seymour Dahl and Lydia Lunch, the Lydian Spin.
Life is
And
going
when will
quickly.
it end? Not sure.
Yes.
Maybe
Yes.
never.
We don't know. We don't, yeah. I mean, when will anything end? I heard a interview with one of these top gerontologists talking about immortality and just all these different pursuits for that. And of course, there's so many different angles. Gene manipulation, slowing down the aging process versus like, there's some people really into like singularity and downloading one's consciousness. And it just never ends. But
Well, some of us have a theory about molecular memory, that we are all just recycled, and some of us have
sure.
access, although it's just as if we're not insane enough. Having access, whether it's perceived or received or fiction or long lost fact, still drives you insane. So you can imagine anything you want to be, but we are just recycled energy. We've been here before, same as it ever was.
Well,
My
as
theory. Anyway, I
Stockhausen says, we're just as we as humans consume all the crusts and flesh of all the other things on this planet, we're just building more bones and flesh of ourselves. Everything's a transformation of energy. It's always
now that you
everything.
bring up bones and
Uh
flesh, we're so simpatico. It brings me to my first story. Now, I think you've heard me say, Tim, you can't kill me, that I'm already dead, or that when I do so-called die, that you'll either never find my body or it'll be stuffed and sent on tour with a voice box.
oh.
I found another alternative. So
Sure.
a book bound by the skin, I'll repeat that, a book bound by the skin of one of the UK's most notorious murderers has been found in a museum office. The skin is from the late Gregorian murderer William Corder, who was hanged at, and I've never heard of this place before, Bury St. Edmunds in 1828 for killing his lover, Maria Martin, and burying her beneath the floor of a Suffolk barn. He told her they would elope. Well, instead, he decided to shoot her in what became known as the Red Barn Murder of 1827. So he was found, tried, publicly executed, because they used to do that
They
one
loved
time,
it. Well, they really loved it in England back in the
before
day.
being dissected. So some of his skin was used to bind a book telling the story of his crime, and has been on display at Moyse Hall Museum in Bury St. Edmunds since 1933. But now, recently, a second copy of the book, also with his skin,
So,
has
whoa.
been found. Okay. And it doesn't have as much skin as the first one, but by any chance, do you know? You know so many things, Tim. What is called this practice of book binding with human flesh? Yes, there is a title. What is
There's
it?
okay. I have
Want to
no
think about
idea.
it?
Um, oh boy, I got to think of a good dad pun.
All right,
I
forget
don't
it.
know. Yeah.
Anthropodermic. I love that name.
Okay.
Bibliography. And it was commonly seen in the 19th century as a way to punish executed prisoners or for doctors who wanted a keepsake. However, Horrible Histories author, I got to get this book, Terry Deary, should be dreary, described the books as sickening artifacts. Like, a lot of criminals really dreaded this. This was worse than hanging. The thought of their bodies would be dissected after death. What do you give a shit what happens
Yeah,
to your body
exactly.
after death?
Like to
Hey,
punish them? I mean, what
stuff
the
it,
fuck?
fluff
Yeah.
it, burn it, bind a book with it. Whatever you want to
Well, they're
do.
kind of like they're
By the way, Timothy, what should
yeah.
I do with you when I'm through with you? I mean, perhaps if you happen to ever die.
Well, I didn't come up with this. I don't know who did. Simon uses this line, which I like, which is throwing my corpse or one's corpse on your worst enemy's front lawn. You deal
But
with it.
There's two. That's either be stuffed naked, like sculpture of Balzac that was done by Rodin, or on the hottest day of the year, a van has to screech down the street of my enemy's neighborhood and just toss the body onto the lawn at noon.
I think we'll do both to you, Simon Slater. You deserve an improper non-burial.
Yeah, well,
Plus, I've been dying to see that. I've been dying to see that erection for a long time now, my friend.
oh my God,
I can only imagine, and trust me, I have a vivid one.
stuffed.
Exactly.
It's a corkscrew.
Taxidermy dick, exactly.
Whoa.
The corkscrew. I mean,
I have a fear that if we were to do that to Simon, it might be like an elephant foot. ashtray.
Human foot ashtray.
And that's a
Ooh.
vision. If
Well,
that was so, Simon, you couldn't walk down the street if you had an elephant foot below the belt.
Speaking of corpses, of course, you must have seen this in the news. The corpse that was in the subway, which I was talking with Simon about this the other day. It must happen all the time, but not what did happen afterwards. Not only was once the person dead or unconscious, it's not really clear what the sequence was, but not only was this corpse or person or whatever state they were in robbed twice, finally someone had sex with the corpse on the I
way to Coney.
Well, I thought Simon was telling me that they had caught him, but I think they're still looking for him, right? They have a picture of the guy, but definitely
maybe death was a better fate than having sex with some stranger on the subway who robs you twice.
Well, the thing is, so obviously, just by probability, people die on the subway. There's millions of people who take it every day. So people, I mean, obviously, homeless people definitely die. I think this guy had a big drinking problem and he blacked out. But
hey, you can die anytime, you know.
But you can die anytime. So that means
it won't be on the F train for me unless it's on the FN train.
There must be psychosexuals out there prowling around looking for opportunities to fuck a corpse.
For a fresh corpse.
I mean, well, it happened. I mean,
Better fresh than dig it up to do it.
Yeah. What time?
Actually, that brings me to my next story. Thank you, Tim.
Yeah, no, but what train was that, Simon? Do you know what train line that was?
In the meantime, let me go on to my next story, which is a combination of bones, flesh, death, and stupidity. An unmarried Catholic construction manager, Kyle, why are they always called Kyle? Kyle Langford, who actually thinks he has a chance of running against Gavin Newsom, spoke about his pro-deportation stance on a podcast and said, not only would he like to see all male undocumented immigrants in the U.S. deported, he also proposed that female undocumented immigrants should be given a year to consider marrying a California incel to avoid deportation. Now, no doubt, talking about his repulsive Republican.
Well, that's sex slavery at that point.
Well, yeah, it's still.
I mean, it's
all forms of slavery.
Yeah,
America, goddammit, don't forget that.
Oh my God! I mean, do these people know how they sound or what they look like?
Whether it's sarcasm or this idiot's stance, it's like, I guess he's just, he realizes Trump married 2 immigrants, and now, I mean, as an incel, he's got every right to, like they didn't want to fuck you in the first place, you fucking Republican.
Oh, they're psyched about this. Well, of course, they totally backpedaled on. We made a mistake by deporting, I forget his name, the guy to El Salvador, but now they're actually backpedaling on that. They're like, oh, he was illegal anyway. It's still not. None of this is legal.
Our train.
Oh boy, was that going to what was it? Cross? Was that in Bay Ridge or was that I wonder where? How
it was in Manhattan. The guy who was molested. It was very sad. I mean, his family really loved him. They're heartbroken this happened, but he was suffering from alcoholism and had cirrhosis of the liver.
So a man was sexually assaulted.
Oh yeah. It was a man. It was a man.
Had been. Not to mention that.
It was a full-on blackout. He was on a bender, alcoholic, falling off the wagon, Family Guy.
Okay, but the guy that died, it was a man who died and was assaulted by another man.
It was man-on-man corpse.
Well,
yes, it was.
Probably
insurrectionist. But it wasn't only men that violated this person. There was a woman that went through the pockets and not sexually. Robbed him before he was
financial domination of a corpse.
Is that rape? If you're dead, is that rape at the point? I don't know. It's a tough one to gauge. Yeah. But it doesn't matter. I think.
Well, as X one said, the group, we're desperate. Get used to it. It's kiss or kill, or kill or die, and then kiss the corpse. It's whatever. I don't even know what's going on.
One of the most outrageous graffiti tags I've ever seen. I was in Sao Paulo and child abuse, and we were driving from the airport, and sure enough, there was in Portuguese legalized necrophilia. I don't know what would inspire someone to write that on a wall, but they did.
Well,
and Angela translated. She bursted out laughing, and the promoter, and she was like, I was like, what's that? Oh yeah.
I won't go into any details about that. It's like that's whatever. Anyway, Trump, that dumpster of dumb ideas, said that he'd be using, I hope he sticks one right up his whatever, 30,000 real eggs when there is an egg shortage or they're expensive for the annual South Lawn egg roll. Now, how many people or families with 30,000? I mean, they have no concept of frickin' reality.
No,
let's just wait. Let's just blow 30,000 eggs on the White House lawn after we pave it over and cut down an old tree so we could put up a magnolia tree. Oh my God.
Wait, so the 30,000 eggs are because eggs
real
are
eggs.
No, because they're expensive. So what's going on here?
No, because he's excessive. 30,000 eggs on the White House lawn.
I thought it was something like it was like some symbolic thing of Easter. And he's giving it back to the people because eggs are expensive. He's just wasting them.
Look, the only thing I've ever seen him give out was paper towels after that hurricane hit Puerto Rico.
Well, he's known to give out hot dogs at golf courses in the locker room.
Big Macs to sports figures.
I mean, these Republican town hall meetings are getting pretty outrageous. I mean, in good ways, people are showing up and going nuts on these fucking people.
Well, excuse me. What was the dumbest woman in Congress called at her recent town meeting?
Taylor Greene.
Yeah. What do they call her? They called her
like a butch something.
Bulldog body. She tased people. She had people tased at her town meeting who were trying to get a decent answer out of her.
Well, all constitutions out the door. Freedom of speech is now gone. Due process is gone. Yet the Constitution was everything. And what about?
Well, hang on. I don't believe it's completely gone yet because there are still so many trials pending. But the thing is, if and we're going to see, the Supreme Court has the right and the jurisdiction to come down with either criminal or civil contempt against these cocksuckers that are not listening to the rule of law. We'll just see what happens. I mean, they failed so far. They're trying to cock block. But how are you supposed to cock block when you got a 2-inch length constitution against a cunt in positions of power? I don't know.
Well, what about the big one? Is the Second Amendment and the right to bear arms to rise against tyranny, a government of tyranny. I mean,
isn't it the 25th Amendment that says you can get rid of somebody who's demented?
There's that one too. I'm just, hats off to Harvard for actually standing up for themselves.
By the way, half the motherfuckers who are in the Congress and the Senate went to Harvard. But the thing is, they all went on daddy's money anyway. And Harvard has so much fucking money that doesn't matter. Cut off the funding. Why don't you give that funding to other schools?
Simon was telling me about an op-ed he read, which is basically all you elite universities with these huge foundations. This is the time to use it. This is actually why you have this. This is the time to stand up.
Balls.
Yeah,
grow some balls.
Keep that money and bow down to the fucking Trump.
Grow balls against the mushroom head.
What about all these celebs that went to outer space? There's been a lot of backlash.
Okay, I have to say, I did hear a good quote about that. Lady Gaga, who, by the way, has gone Marilyn Manson, Susie and the Banshee, outrageous theatrical, beyond the beyond. She's topped herself and everybody else in her latest performances. Just check out the Saturday Night Live. Even that was outrageous. I'm not one to talk about her other than her meat dress. She said, I've had farts that have lasted longer, as a diss to Katy Perry. Well, she's kind of winning me over at this point.
I mean, first of all, the carbon footprint on that, and there's been their response is like, oh no, we actually did real science up there. Like, what? Okay.
Oh, whoop-de frickin' do. You know what?
This is not the time.
Why don't you focus more on what's going on this planet and not your space fantasy cartoon baby boy bullshit. Why don't you try to heal this planet before we ruin another one?
Well, it's a pissing contest between obviously Bezos and Musk, and then it's just all a flex of gazillionaires.
Well, and you know why they're not going to the moon? Because they maybe finally realized that the moon dust is completely toxic. You don't think Mars is? Give me a freaking break.
Oh, all that stuff is. It's and then actually not even touching another rock out there. I mean, it's just being in outer space. The radiation's insane. You don't come back the same. Let's put it that way. And you come back a little younger than everyone else. It's weird.
I got to make one more complaint about the sperm doning,
Oh yeah.
morally depleted, mentally deficient, chainsaw welding, wants to father a legion. Of course, all of this in vitro. Like 14 aren't enough that you don't support. I mean, speak about I don't even know what this guy is. He's just another. Now, this is an immigrant that needs to be frickin' deported.
Yep.
With that in mind, let's go into this 300th episode with a Renaissance man called Gavin Friday. Very excited to present this as somebody that's done so much in so many different fields. And
well, he follows his intuition, and it seems to do him well. He gets redirected and in new
and it's very diverse. And you know, I do like a musical schizophrenic, and so he is, and so we are. And with that, it's the Lydian Spin with Lydia Lunch, Tim Dahl, Simon Slater pipped in a little. I think you should do more of that.
Sure.
He has a mouth and he knows how to use it. Other
300.
than that, stop the recording. I need to talk to both of you. This is the Lydian Spin with Lydia Lunch and Tim Dahl, and a Renaissance man, if ever there was, composer, painter, lyricist, vocalist, a soundtrack coordinator and composer, Emmy nominated
actor,
Emmy nominated for doing the narration on the recent animated Peter and the Wolf. Gavin Friday with a new album out, first in many years, called Ecce Homo, and it's quite a departure, and it's quite frickin' beautiful. Hello, Gavin Friday.
How are you, Lydia?
Perfect as always, darling. It's been a while, much too long.
It has. I think it was, last time I physically saw you was Carnegie Hall.
Yes, and it was too long before that. But I'm going to remember my favorite time of seeing you. Well, there were two. And one was, I don't know why I was in Ireland, but you were wearing a fantastic full-length black priest-like frock that I believe your mother had made you.
Right. I remember that time I think could have been 1982. Could have been 1982 or 3.
We were just children then.
We met at Trinity College, and I was wearing a black dress, and you were wearing black leather. And I think my memory serves me, or else I'm getting your album cover wrong, that bra with studded nails.
Well, I think you just transposed that onto my body. You're talking about the Queen of Siam cover. Yeah. The other favorite time, I was lucky enough to see the Virgin Prunes in the Last Supper performance, art musical spectacle. I believe it was at the venue, the Vortex, somewhere in London. It was the same place I played with the birthday party on my trip there. And it was just an outlandish spectacle.
Yes.
I'm very happy I got to see it.
in the days when spectacles were quite spontaneous, if you remember those days.
Honey, time is one long second that goes on forever. Of course, we're in it. We're forever in everything. You've always been very theatrical, and I'm just also going to compliment because I played Each Man Loves the Things. Each man kills the things he loves. I love the things I kill. That's my take on it, which was a beautiful, very cabaret-ish, and you've always had this cabaret flavor, and I think you're bringing that to your new live production. You just came off tour. How was that? You must have been happy to be on tour.
Yeah, I literally a couple of days ago did the Dublin show after 10 other shows, and yeah, it was quite spectacular in that I just felt so at home. I hadn't been on stage in my own right, in my own show in 12 years, and
wow,
realize you really miss it when you get there, you know?
You bring such a cabaret Brechtian human thing to the, I mean, you just look like you should be living on the stage. It's some kind of exterminating angel. Go ahead, Tim. I'm sorry.
Well, I'm just saying, you know, if this is such part of your character, how did you not miss it for those 12 years?
Yeah, of course.
I did perform the last 12 years, but not in my own environment.
Ah, right.
Like I did lots, as we know, the great late Hal Woolner. I was one of his go-to men. I was on most of his shows, and I just get sidetracked. Uh, I remember 12 years ago when I finished my last tour for the album Catholic, I said, "Yeah, I'll be going out in 2 years and going into record." And I went around the corner and I met Gavin Bryars, the classical composer, and went off and worked with him for a year and a half, and then
Hmm.
turned another corner. And it's just what turns you on, what frightens you, what enthralls you, and what makes you want to do something. So I don't like conveyor belts, and I never did.
Fair.
I don't like chastity belts, and I never did. So you'll never find me in one. Although if you get naughty, I just might have to. But you do bring out the naughty in me, my friend. I'm sorry. Um,
I mean,
but
you
you've
bet.
done this. Go ahead, Tim.
No, you mentioned, back when spectacle was spontaneous. Also, spectacle used to be conspicuous. In a weird way, we're becoming less and less conspicuous, at least with the tech generation. They're hiding behind these screens. Do you like being conspicuous? It seems like you do. And is that just part of your spirit? Do you like the rebellion against being conspicuous in the new generation? Like John Waters says, the new generation has the rebellion has no fashion. It's anonymous. They're breaking down banks from their bedroom. They're not out there on stage
I
destroying
want to
stuff.
interject with one thing, but Gavin, you're so elegant on stage,
Mhm.
considering the perversity of your true nature. Considering the depth of the subjects you're plunging. I mean, especially this new tour. I checked out some live shows, and just again, so perfectly natural and elegant. And it does bring me back to a kind of Weimar Berlin, a cabaret kind of thing. That even though the new album, which is quite different, was the whole thing produced by Dave Ball. Dave Ball.
Well, it was. I started working with Dave Ball, who's basically electronic based. And after a while, I decided I didn't want it totally electronic based. So I went back to Dublin and brought in strings and organic instruments. And so he co-produced it, but he was very
And Dave Ball of Soft Cell, and who's done a million other things
yeah.
as well. And actually, his flavor has expanded and combined with your flavor. So there's many different textures on this record. And then, and again, the subject matters are life, death, loss, love, revenge, rage. I love that one phrase you have about the kill, kill, king.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Also, the stage shows are quite, I mean, they're simple yet evocative. You're using really great lighting. So do you bring your own lighting designer with you? Is the show stage designed?
It is, and it isn't in that because, as you know, how expensive it is to travel. And I, I go, and sometimes we find what we have in the venue is what we have. But I got a young guy that is from the tech world that you mentioned. He's 30 and he was a classically trained musician that got bored with music and got into lights. And he does these crazy raves. So he's almost like a lighting man that paints. And I just loved bringing that energy in. So it is worked out in the head, but physicality, um, it all depends on even the
The
mood.
venue as well, I'm sure, right? I mean, it depends on what the venue can accommodate, the size of it. How
Yeah.
so? What size? Were you playing mostly theaters, clubs, venues, festivals? What did this tour mainly consist of? I mean, I saw a few of the performances, and the thing is, no matter where it was, I couldn't tell. It
Yeah,
always looked very intimate.
they were into it. I mean, we started off with some shows in Portugal, and I'd never played.
Wonderful.
What a beautiful country.
Oh
And they were
yes.
very much clubs. They were like punk clubs. But when we went to Holland and Belgium and France, and we were playing where we were playing theaters that would hold about one and a half, one, two, 1,200. And the same, like I strive to have people seated. Uh,
Yes, me too. Absolute.
I mean, number one, I'm too fucking. Uh, I don't want to stand for an hour and a half, and I want to have
I
Mhm.
great.
often sit on stage when I'm playing with Tim in our three-piece called Murderous Again. I sit between the satanic symphonic improvs.
But yeah, so it is. It is constructed in logically, but we go with the bruises, we go with the punches,
Yeah.
as you have to, because it's really I'm in fear of how musicians are going to tour in the future
Oh
because
yeah.
so
Well,
tricky, so tricky.
we're road dogs, so we just keep plowing away and punching our way through various types of situations with various types of music. So, how many people are involved in this new live show? I mean, I saw some. I don't know who the gal is who comes out wearing this almost Dutch nun's hat and
Yeah.
then takes that off. I guess she's your a singer there, but the band seems quite concise. How
Mhm.
many people are on stage with you during this new Ecce Homo stage show? And also, are you doing any old tracks, or is it mostly from the new album?
No, I am playing most of the new album, and I tend to like that. I've played about 4 or 5 older tracks, some from Each Man, some from Shag Tobacco, and 2 Virgin Prune adventures I go into.
Oh, that,
Okay.
Very, I arrange them very differently. I don't try and recapture.
yeah.
I just try and relive in my own head. Uh, but there's two ladies in the band. There's a girl, Carly, who's the girl with the nun's hat.
Mhm.
She's American, lives in
It
Ireland
almost
now.
looks like a Flemish hat. Like I don't know what it.
Think it's supposed to be a French nun, so it
Yeah.
gets that sort of air of, the world where we were repressed in our Catholic Ireland. The French nuns used to beat the fuck out of all the kids,
Oh
and
God, please.
now
Yes.
you have it's almost like tipping the hat to the Handmaiden's Tale, which it looks like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. Which
loaded
we're
with.
in right now. Exactly.
So there's that,
Exactly.
and I
So, how
used
many musicians that are on stage with you? Who's doing what up there?
the mainly it's from working with Hal Wilner, and I came from working in the Virgin Prunes. We were self-taught noise merchants. To then, when I started working with Hal in the late '80s, he said, "Look, you got to go with the guys that can do fucking everything, the
Mm.
Got to
classical
go with the orchestras. Yeah.
noise guys, the guys that can go A to Z." So I tend to work with people that are classically trained. One of them, a French player, Renaud Pion's worked with me for 31 years, and he's a horn player, and he's one of my main men. And then a lady called Kate Ellis who plays cello, and a keyboard player, Kevin Cochran, and then Carly, who's also classically trained, even though she's only 34. Uh, it's just there I can go from A to Z.
Sure.
And
Right. It
so
allows you the freedom. Actually, it actually gives you more freedom.
it really does because like the pop and the rock world, even the noise world, it's quite limited
Yeah.
in a way. You got to be able to push it further. And you know that better than all the New Yorkers you've worked with. They know more stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
Yes.
I am a
Yes.
musical schizophrenic like yourself, my friend. And again, we go back to Bowie, which was one of our both of our great inspirations. And I really think what he gave me was the musical schizophrenia.
Exactly. I mean, you're listening to this stuff as a 10-year-old or 12-year-old.
Yeah,
Then, I mean, the first time I saw Bowie was the Station to Station and then the Heroes tour. And you just realize that, like, and you're only like 18, 17, 18, and you go, everything. You have to go for everything.
yeah.
And
My
punk,
favorites were always Aladdin Sane and Diamond Dogs.
well, I mean, they preempted punk almost, didn't they?
Mm.
Well, and also Mick
Sure.
Ronson's solo album "Slaughter on 10th Avenue" I think is one of the best glam records, which Bowie, of course, copped a lot from because that's what he was really good at. Yeah.
Unsung hero, a genius, Mick Ronson.
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
absolutely.
How did you meet Hal in '88?
I met Hal when I was in '88. I knew Hal. I knew his work. Sorry, I didn't know him personally.
Right.
From I'm a big Kurt Weill Brecht fan, and
Yep.
he did a tribute to Kurt Weill called "Lost in the Stars," I think in '85. And I had this album. I met, and I was being chased by a record company. Imagine that. Uh, And Island Records wanted to sign me, and I met Chris Blackwell, which is fortunate because of the amount of taste. And I said, I don't want to fucking produce this by this guy, that guy. And he said, who would you like? I said, someone like Hal Wilner.
Hmm.
And he said,
Wonderful.
hold on. And he picked up the phone and he rang him. And I was in New York, and he said, go to SOB's, Sounds of Brazil. And I
Yep.
said, how do I know him? You'll know him. He'll be sitting at the bar. This is when Hal drank back in the day. And I walked in at 10 o'clock at night, and I think we were kicked out at 4 in the morning. And we just organically talked and talked and
Cool.
talked. The man was phenomenal. He was just, I so miss him, Lydia. He's just unreal.
Well,
He was a music.
when we met last time at that Carnegie Hall thing, and he called and invited me, and thank you for the opportunity to do a song from Queen of Siam with an 18-piece orchestra. I walked into the rehearsal, and he had never invited me to do anything else. And he said, "Oh, everybody thought I produced the Queen of Siam, but I just stole all the ideas and produced Mary and Faithful." And I'm, yeah, you know what, Hal? Fuck you very much, and thank you for the compliment. Right.
Was he? He was the music director of that Sunday night TV show. Was by
Yes.
David Sanborn. Were you on that?
No, no. And I think once again, that was like budget, to get somebody from Ireland all the way over there.
Sure.
Al was always doing things on the fly,
Hmm.
incredible things. And his day job, what paid his bills, was his Saturday Night Live gig.
Sure.
Yeah.
That in
Did
with
you
him.
ever tour America, Gavin?
He did. I played. I mean, the Virgin Prunes played America in '82.
That must have been a great success.
The Danceteria, actually. We played 2 nights in the Danceteria, and then we went to the 9:30 Club, I
Of
think.
course, where I used to shoot rats in the alley.
Yeah, filthy place. And I think it's still the fucking same, I think.
Oh, yeah, it is.
And Philadelphia, and then, the next time I played New York and Los Angeles many times, but the only time I ever toured, and it was a 4-week tour, it was fucking hell. Shag
Hmm.
tobacco. I traveled all across America.
Because it's hard to tour in America. It's huge.
It's huge, and it was around '95 when the grunge thing was big, and I
Yeah.
was
When you're doing cabaret, sophisticated
yeah.
cabaret.
And every sound system was fucked with beer and whatever. But I realized that, like, maybe America is about California, New York, and maybe
Yeah.
Chicago, and the
Yeah. And
rest.
New Orleans for a vacation for a few days.
And then I went, the rest, I don't know. I mean, I got threatened with a gun in Texas.
Whoa.
I was doing this interpretation of a song called Mr. Pussy, and I put on a boa, and the guy said, I think you should get out of this venue now, sir. You should get out, stop doing this pussy shit. Get out of it. We've guns in our cars. And it was like, whoa.
Whoa.
I guess it cut a little close to his bone.
Yeah, seriously.
But
Well, I mean, even after all, even living in America most, other than the time I lived in Spain for 8 years, I still tour Europe more than I tour America. When I go on tour with any configuration I have, the most we can get is like blocks of 5 shows, 7 shows, because it's just too big. You just can't do it. Can't do it. Got to go in clumps.
it's hard, and now will they let people in?
Oh, probably. Well, they let me back when I come to Europe in May.
well, the question is, I mean, obviously, and I'm not going to mention it. I've had some friends who've already had a problem coming from Europe, because of their politics recently. I'm curious if Europe's going to retaliate against American musicians going there. I have no idea where any of this is going.
I don't think so.
You don't think so? I hope not. Yeah.
No, I think Europe is a wise old man. It's a wise old man. It's culturally far more sophisticated. And we all know that this is just crazy fucking people. This government is just crazy people.
I mean, and the thing is, the sick part is kill, kill, king. But we've seen this so many times before in so many different places. And to me, it's like the war, whether it's about stupidity, violence, murder, death, incarceration, deportation is a virus that just travels around the globe. It's not ending. It's, and right now there are 92 countries in conflict. And, one of my problems is we can only focus on like two places at once. So it's Ukraine and Gaza, which is freaking terrible. But that's only a subterfuge to the rest of the violence, the 182 million female and child refugees, and et cetera, and et cetera. And, America has been until this point very good at the duplicity of pretending what we were about and exporting a Hollywood version.
Mm-hmm.
We're murderers, we're killers, we're convicts, we're cruel. It's demonocracy. It's not democracy. It's kleptocrats, etc.
Yeah,
that too, being from Ireland. I mean, the thing is, we've had only the thing is the war was in your country, and we export war, and the war in this country comes from within in different methods.
Yeah, we have different class systems. There's
another school shooting today. Hello, no biggie. Yeah.
Well, we grew up like, the 800 years of repression and all that, and I grew up with bombs going off.
Sure.
It was like when terrorism kicked in globally post 9/11, I went, oh, we know what that's like.
Right.
We just knew. We just grew up in that era, so we knew. So we're hard, but the real sophisticated thing, and this is like quite political, is how strong the Irish have been about the situation in Palestine. They are forefront pro-Palestine. They declared it as an actual state. It takes balls for a tiny country to do that, and it really has.
And a country that's been in, fortunately, not as devastated as the landscape of Gaza, but still physically and emotionally devastated by war, which is still this fucking virus that infects men's heads. That I don't see stopping any. I mean, we want to send idiots to bars, but we can't solve a land and mineral crisis. We can't call a dictator a dictator, especially when you got one here in the fucking White House.
But isn't the truth really that the world is changing and has been changing, not just with the internet, but with, global warming, and everything's sort of changing and cracking, and it's a turmoil everywhere. But the fuckers that have the money think, get rid of this, get rid of that. No, it's a changing world.
Exactly. Exactly. And that is the problem, is they're living in another time, and that time is the same as it ever was. When people say it's really bad now, I always say, well, it was bad in the Middle Ages, the 1700s, the 1900s, the 1940s wasn't too good either. And here we go again. And here we go again. And that is why art is the salve to the universal wound. And that's why we, as warriors on the front line of trying to put some kind of peace or band-aid on wounded others, continue to create. Am I right, my friend? I think so.
Absolutely. It's just, I mean, I've never felt as fired up about politics in the world. When I was a young man, when I was in the Virgin Prunes, I was very kicking against the pricks of the Catholic Church or the English-Irish governments. But now I've never felt that rage. And your rage is when you're older. When you're 20, your rage is pretty fucking visceral. But it's different when you're older. You can take the digs a bit better. Do you know what I mean?
Well, it was Ronald Reagan that had me first start opening my mouth about the fuckery that happens. And I haven't stopped yet. And I've not. And by the way, I'll have a few pieces I'm going to send you when we're done with this conversation, especially my dear Ivanka piece, which I've recently been performing. And my dissertation on demonocracy. I haven't stopped. And I wonder with myself, like, why do I become the woman on the hill with the bullhorn about war ever since Reagan? And maybe it was because growing up like you did in a place that had riots outside your front door gave me a sense of injustice and justice. Somebody has to fucking speak for it. And at the same time, we have to find our pleasure, because if we don't, they win just by thumbing our heads into the frickin' sand forever. Or as Orwell said, if you want a vision of the future, imagine a boot stomping on a human face forever.
Jesus.
Ain't gonna accept.
But
Crank it
you're
out.
right. You're right. When you grow up seeing the injustice and feeling it, and feeling a boot in your head, it does change you. It does change you, and it's in my DNA. And
Yeah.
I am what I am. I can't change it.
I loved seeing glitter on your head in one of these live TV performances I recently investigated. I like that's such a good look, the glitter head. I'm sad you don't have any now, but I'm sure after we get off this conversation, I'm going to put some more on. I
Well,
painted my face.
it
Glitter head is a
doesn't
good
go away.
look.
Yeah, it is. And when you're follically challenged, when the hair fell out when I was 48, 50, I
I
just
wouldn't
went,
say you're challenged at all. I'd say it's a very good look for you, my friend. Not
yeah,
everybody can pull it off.
yeah. But it was almost, it was my first love. I was not thwarted by the 60s. I was very much a 70s kid. So it was T-Rex and Bowie and Roxy that changed my life. You know,
Hello and the New York Dolls.
yeah. It
But
was,
Okay.
you've gone in so many different directions, and I wanted to actually also talk to you about how you got involved with 50 Cent and Quincy Jones.
Amazing.
I mean,
I mean, so amazing.
that, yeah,
Really cool thing. That
that,
was with
that,
that Quincy Jones. That was on the incidental music for 50 Cent, but Get Rich or Die Trying.
yeah,
Exactly. But that was simply, I remember that very well. I worked a lot with Jim Sheridan, the movie director, who made In the Name of the Father in America, and also
And
made
congratulations for all those movie soundtracks. And I mean, up for Emmys and awards for the best song, best soundtrack. And really, congratulations, my friend. So carry on with the Quincy Jones and 50 Cent.
but Jim said, yeah, and Jim is real Dublin. He says, why are you bringing in Gavin Friday? He's not black. And Jim says, neither am I black. I'm fucking white and I'm from Dublin. But they were into these hip hop guys loved Daniel Day-Lewis and In the
sure.
Name of the Father, and they loved all that. And they said, well, we got to meet this guy. So they flew me over to Canada. They were filming in Canada. And they walked in, and I just said to the guy I was working with, Morris, he says, wear a three-piece suit, a cravat, put on the jewelry, stand there, sit there. And they all walked in with their PAs and their managers, about 50 of them, all these producers. And they were going, who the fuck you? I said, I'm Gavin Friday. And where are you from? I'm from Europe. And they went, Europe? Ireland, Europe. And they were, suddenly, it was the bling that started impressing the guys. Going,
You
you know
never
where
know what's going to convince them.
it was
Anybody,
the
though.
it was the cravats and the suit and the fact I said, motherfuckers are European. They love the idea of Europe. And I
You
said,
got style, and look, style counts for a lot. Let's face it. Even though you know what I'm saying, there's different kinds of style. It counts for a lot. I mean, I have to win. I have to win people over. You and I know I'm funny, but I've had to win. I won Umar bin Hassan over of the Last Poets with my humor because I feared if he found out about anything I did, because we worked with him. Tim and I did some shows with him. I'm like, this is madness. This is like my hero. How am I going to win this guy over? Humor.
that's how I won them over, was like style and a bit of neck. A bit like, you're motherfucking European? I said, yeah,
That's right,
European.
motherfucker.
But those were the hip hop guys. I mean, Quincy Jones obviously has been
Well, he
around.
was
Yeah,
Oh
he
yeah.
was- that's just like what was so strange. The week I went and meet him, he my dad had just died, and he was the very same age as my dad, and it's born the same day. Craziness, but he was like this. What do you want? Whatever you want, Gavin. You want a car? You want food? You want food? I said, no, I don't want food. It was just this big God that was giving out everything.
How
But
nice. How nice to meet somebody that accomplished who's freaking cool, right? That's
he
it.
was stylish, but he was a brand, a gold brand. That's what the producers brought in, a gold brand. I'll say this seriously, we did all the hard work. Yeah.
okay, yeah.
No doubt.
So yeah, I mean,
Um,
yeah, he stamped his name on it. Basically, what you're saying.
Yeah, but I learned a lot from him, and he was
Sure.
quite sophisticated and very funny and very kind. He was a kind man.
Mm.
was the
So
kind
you're going for 50 Cent to the Royal Shakespeare Company. I don't know what came first, and doing Shakespeare sonnets interpretations. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know what order it came in, but still, this is the diversity of your perversity. This is why I love you.
You know, what as a kid, Shakespeare was on the curriculum in school, but I never dug it. I was
Yeah.
like, and also I was still pretty anti-Brit in my DNA then when I was younger. But I always was fascinated, and I find as I'm getting older, like I'm obsessed with Shakespeare now. I just adore
Hmm.
it. But I
So maybe you
find
can understand it better.
I can. And the thing about the sonnets, they were my way in. You can pick up a sonnet, and it's not like this ominous 50 fucking chapter book. 12 lines.
Sure.
Read it, go asleep, and the next day you're walking and you're rereading it, and you're
Hmm.
feeling. And poetry and short prose, they're the way forward for me. Do you know what
What
I'm
were you
saying?
reading
Sure.
as a kid? Before, I mean, obviously you rejected Shakespeare because it's too difficult when you're a kid. So
Yeah.
what were you, before music, was it literature? Was it movies? What were you doing?
I didn't really read that loads when I was quite young because my dad was quite repressive in Catholic Ireland. But
Right?
when I was around 11, 12, I went into secondary school and I had to get books. And Oscar Wilde was on the
Hmm.
curriculum. So I got the complete works of him. And there was Dorian Gray
Right?
at the same time Ziggy Stardust, and both
Yes.
sold to the devil. It was Faust, and I was in there, and it was almost, you know, gothic romantic too. Wuthering Heights was a big book. Alice in Wonderland, the
Poe,
fantasy.
any Poe?
Poe, absolutely. But like where
Back
you
to
could
Hell Wilner about Poe for a minute. Did
correct.
you do any
So
of those
Raven?
performances reading Poe?
I did a very beautiful thing and a very beautiful session that will always be in my memory because Ginsberg, myself, and Jeff Buckley went into the studio with Hal on the same night, and I recorded a piece called For Annie, and Ginsberg was conducting and helping uh, Jeff Buckley. But 4 weeks after that, both of them were dead. Alan and Jeff Buckley,
I didn't know.
both.
I forgot that they died right at the same time. Okay.
And
Both.
also, I'm going to pick that up by saying then Kramer picked up this Poe thing, which he invited me. Finally, I'm like on a project that Hal Wilner started, and Ann Waldman, and Joan Policewoman, and Thurston Moore, and so many other people. And that just came out. And that's kind of the circular thing with the Poe stuff.
I mean, Poe, it's just, I mean, and Lou Reed was big into Poe,
Yes, yes.
Lou and Hal. But I mean, American Gothic, he basically invented it, really, didn't he?
Yeah. Yeah,
Basically did.
absolutely.
What about the Irish writer greats?
I'm a big fan of Joyce, and I learned
See,
once
I got a
again,
few years to read a book, sure.
but listen, you don't read them. This is what I found out.
Ah,
You,
yeah.
you walk
Tim is
around.
always is mentioned. Oh, Tim is always mentioning Joyce.
No, I
Oh,
want to hear. I want to hear what you have to say about this. 'Cause I kind of.
Yeah.
I
Joyce.
think. I think I agree with
So
this.
you buy Joyce and you go, you're 16, you're walking around with the stupid fucking Sartre and Joyce books as you did, and along with your Aladdin Sane albums, which is just a thing to tell other kids, fuck you. But really, I didn't understand it. And
Right.
then RTE did this retrospective recording over 2 days of the whole thing. And when you listen to
And
Joyce,
you totally agree. Yeah.
then you understand he wrote for sound, for smell. He wrote in 3D. He wrote in 3D. So it's like there's one chapter I think when he's on Sandymount Beach, and it's 3 pages, and it goes shh, shh, shh. You go, what the fuck? But when you hear it, it's him walking along the beach, and it's the sea coming up against the stones.
Then you get it. Yeah.
And it's like 3 pages of that shit. but when you hear it, you get it. And then he was fucking with everyone. You see, you would look at this book, Lydia. Uh, Joyce's total fucking mentor was his wife, right? Molly, or Nora is her real name, Nora Joyce. And there's a book called Nora. I'll
Oh,
get,
yes.
and she was Irish, but spoke only Irish, was moved to Dublin, but couldn't speak English in the time when Joyce was there. And he fell in love with this. Basically, she was a housemaid and worked in a restaurant and as a housemaid, but she had to compulsory speak English. So what she would do, she would go break up the language with frustration. So she would go, "Where is my umbrella?" She'd go, "Where's me bleeding fucking rella?" It was like this revenge on the British language.
Whoa.
And he picked up this nuance from this frustrated, poetic Irish woman
Wonderful. Yeah.
and murdered the English language through his art. Murdered it.
Absolutely. Have you read his love letters to her?
Yes,
Those are
they're quite. They were funky. They
Oh,
were
yes, they were. You know, Gavin, it's funny you say that because I came to the same conclusion. I was like, I don't know what's going on reading it. And when I heard it on books and tape, Ulysses books on tape, I'm like, this is music. This is something else.
feeling. But even the first, even how he's playing with words, the first page of Dante. I said, what the fuck is Dante's Inferno doing in a kitchen? And it's not Dante. It's the Irish colloquialism of Dante's up, the ante, the ant pays a visit, but he calls the ant Dante.
Oh,
Oh,
right.
amazing.
So he's playing with this book, Nora, will fucking blow your mind because it's
I'm
based
investigating. I'm going to be
on a
checking that
woman.
one out.
This woman made this man, or was his muse in every way.
Mm.
I'm going to investigate.
Mhm.
I think it's so important. I mean, one of the projects Tim and I have, which is I'm reading because people haven't, I don't understand why not enough have, reading the works of Henry Miller,
Mhm.
John Recchi, David Wojnarowicz, a story about Herbert Huncke. And then I just found something I had produced years ago, which was a recording called Our Fathers Who Aren't in Heaven, where I'm reading Selby and Selby's reading Selby. And this project called Dead Men Talking, because I think it's so important to get these words out into the ear if people are too lazy to read. I will go. Thing is, we did this during COVID, and I would just go, all right, I'm going to read something, but now send me some music. And all of the books were on Grove Press. Barney Ross at 60 censorship trials. Yeah.
Mhm.
So it's very important to hear some things read to you
Really.
or to reinterpret Shakespeare on stage, as you've done, or to do the sonnets. Now,
Well,
what
the
about
sonnet,
composing the music for a film on Francis Bacon?
well, I mean, I remember as a kid being in Soho, London, and going into the French house, the pub in Soho where he drank, and sitting in the corner in awe of his obnoxiousness as he was drinking with his people. And then you sort of discover his paintings, and it was just
Amazing.
wow. And he was Irish, you know that, rejected Irish. He
Okay.
rejected Irishness because he had a tough time because he was Protestant upbringing. So when he left Dublin, he rejected his Irishness. But there's one thing when you do come to Dublin, his whole studio is in Dublin. They revamped it. They brought it every. He worked in the one studio for 38 years,
Oh,
and he threw all the paper and all the beer and everything, the champagne bottles, but they recreated every nuance of every page over the 30 years. And you can go in and you can see it. You can
oh,
go,
fabulous.
it's
And how
unbelievable.
did you get that? How did you get that invitation?
I got
I mean, it
that
seems
invitation by
natural, but
well, it was somebody that was making a documentary about his time in Ireland and talking about his Irish life. And they asked Adam Clayton to narrate it. And Adam Clayton says, well, you're the only man that can underscore this. So it was there through sort of inner friendships. But it just happened really quickly. I
yeah.
mean, I believe score I learned a lot from working with Jim Sheridan and the likes. But score really is knowing the other glue. It's like you know the character. It's what the words and the visuals aren't saying. That's what music has to do.
It's
Tell
so
you.
important. Music and film and documentary is so important. Has anybody ever invited you, or maybe the time is still? Because I find that often disappointed in horror films, but often the soundtracks are amazing because they're more terrifying than what's going on. I'm always screaming at horror films. There's five of you. Why are you letting one maniac kill you? I don't get it. But the sound in horror films is really
You're more talking about film score as opposed to soundtracks like songs. You're talking about just the accompaniment,
But
right?
even you talk about horror, Carpenter, his music is better than his film.
Oh, there you go. Right. That's fun. Good
Music,
point.
It can happen.
yeah.
Maybe that's going to be your next project.
Yeah, a lot of synth drones, which are pretty creepy, I guess.
He was quite ahead of his time. Like he was doing these DIY synth drones when fucking samplers weren't out. You know, he was
Sure.
quite extraordinary.
The Goblins, I mean, the Suspiria soundtrack too. I mean, a sideline from that. I mean, I always found that in early porn, the music was the worst part of it. It actually brought the films down. It was so bad.
I think those were union gigs. I think they kind of had to hire some. I don't know what was going on there, but yes.
I wish I could say the only sex I had for money was a union gig.
The guy who did porn stuff way back, I think Patrick Cassidy, is it? He co-wrote with Sylvester.
Oh, maybe. I wouldn't know that.
Some of his porn stuff is like that could have been a hit.
But Sylvester managed a punk club in San Francisco for a while.
Oh.
Isn't that bizarre that a friend of mine, Ann Militello, did the lighting for it? It was her first lighting gig, and Sylvester was running a punk rock club. Jesus. This is like in the early 80s. Yeah.
It's funny how that, and then going back to porn film score composers, one of the Japanese avant-garde noise guys was doing like kind of disco porn, like for Japanese porn's accompaniment. I can't remember which one it was. I'll have to look that up. Yeah. Sure I think there's an album of it. Yeah. Anyhow,
actually, not much lost on that front.
I've seen a Japanese porn movie. I have to admit.
You have or have not?
I haven't.
They put mosaics on the penetration. They distort it, and it's very bizarre. And as my direct quote, because I'm going to impersonate her, the Buto dancer Azumi Oi I work with. I asked her, I go, why in the Japanese porn do they make these digital kind of mosaics?
Can't show hair.
No, her response is because Japanese is so pervert. They have to obscure the last second.
Well, one of the most bizarre things I've ever seen in a Japanese porno film. This is a fetish ? Women in cocoons on on trees on a deserted highway. Like, I don't understand how that's enticing. Like women in giant cocoons.
Oh, yes.
Now, sea cucumbers, octopus, that kind of stuff. I understand the nature of that. I don't understand a woman being cocooned. Or another perverse thing I saw was this device that held the nose open over the head with two cigarettes, one up each nostril. I mean, just whatever. Gee. They don't show hair though.
Whatever it takes. Whatever. It takes.
Exactly. I've got nothing more to say on this. So, are you just touring intermittently now? Is there more touring to come for Ecce Homo, the new album, which is fantastic?
I am going to play more. I mean, I'm not particularly. I don't believe in festivals. Well, not festivals. I don't like playing in fields. I think music should have a roof on it.
I don't like playing in front of that many people.
Yeah. Quite frankly. So, maybe I might do one or two bespoke ones, but really it's September. I'm going to go back out. I reckon
in Europe,
and maybe even America if they let me. I don't know. I quite like Canada.
We go there often. Yes, I do like Canada. What about Australia? Have you been to Australia?
I've been to Australia numerous times. Twice with Hal. Weirdly enough, I did a beautiful project in the last years of Hal's life with. You may have know this guy. He's a New Yorker. He now lives elsewhere. Eric Mingus, Charles Mingus's
Oh,
son.
yeah.
He's
Yeah,
also
yeah.
on the Poe record. And yes, Tim knows. Tim, you've played with him, haven't you? Have you
No,
played with him?
I haven't, but I've met
Yeah,
him.
he's on this Poe record that Kramer produced.
Eric did
Yeah.
wrote an interpretation, a jazz interpretation of The Who's Tommy.
An amazing film and most outrageous concept album, maybe of all times.
Really, we went to Adelaide, which is a godforsaken place in Australia, for 3 weeks, and we did a week of this show, and I played the part of the Acid Queen
Nice.
and
Tina Turner, the Acid Queen. And what?
And the pervert Uncle Ernie. I
Oh,
played both.
Uncle Ernie. Did you hear Tommy as a teenager? Because I heard it. I think I was about 13 or something, and I'm like, this is the weirdest shit ever.
It was. I mean, it got stolen by Elton John's terrible version of Pinball. But
Well, they wanted Rod Stewart to be Pinball Wizard.
really?
I did not know that. Yeah.
You know, Early Faces is one of my favorite. I mean, early Rod Stewart. Until Gasoline Alley. Loved Rod Stewart.
Hold on. One of the greatest vocals ever of Rod Stewart is Python Lee Jackson. You know that one? In a Broken
Yeah.
Dream? Like, he is such a singer, Rod Stewart. Such a
I
singer.
think he's one of the sexiest. And I mean, there's great YouTube stuff with the faces that is just some of the best rock and roll.
It was
Just
James
so
Brown's
sexy.
favorite white singer. It was James Brown's favorite white singer. Was
Really?
Rod Stewart. Yes.
But he had that croak, that ache.
Oh, so sexy.
Yeah.
I think you should go back to Australia. I was just there last year. I've been there a few times, and I have a great promoter. I think you need to go back to Australia. The audience is great. They're there, and the food is wonderful. Yes, it's a long flight, especially from Ireland, but maybe stop in
From
LA
everywhere.
and then
From everywhere.
but it's worth it, and we always have a great time when we're there, and the audience is really great, and there's great theaters, and there's this great museum that's in Tasmania that you must perform at, that's built into a rock. It's so beautiful, so weird. Tasmania, have you been there? You need to go to Tasmania.
I've been to Australia. I really liked Melbourne, actually.
It's great. Yeah.
Well, that's where Jim Thirlwell's from. And was that how you two met, through Jim Thirlwell, or just?
I met Jim through Rough Trade Records in 1981. Just met him in the store, and he was a big Virgin Prune fan, and he played on some Virgin Prune records. And what a guy! I mean,
Oh, he's still amazing. I actually just had some contact with him 2 days ago. He's amazing and still throbbing it out. Just, what's interesting is last week. Pardon me,
he performed at that Carnegie Hall show with us. He's
so amazing.
He's the real deal. He's as passionate. He's such a intellect, such a fan, such a knowledge, and he's as passionate as he was in 1980.
Well, and let's go back to when he first started making records, when he was actually cutting tape together before sampling. I mean, he was one of the first doing that.
Well, I mean, in the pop years, Music Concrete is pretty old, but yes, that's still.
But going back to that time, we had Graham Lewis on last week, whose new album is also fantastic, and so we're going. I mean, now we're having this conference of people our own age. So we had Graham Lewis, we have you, whose new album is great. Your new album is great, but I want to go back because we also worked with Coil and The Fall. Now let's talk about Marky Smith for a minute. I badgered Marky Smith for years to do spoken word shows. Finally, he did one, and he was so drunk, it was awful. I'm like, I'm never inviting him to do that again. I always loved the music of Coil, I have to say. And of course, The Fall stood alone. Yeah.
Well, The Fall, I was a big fan of The Fall, like from 1978 as a kid. And back then, on the back of little 7-inch singles, you'd have an address. So I used to write to him, and he would write back, as I used to write to Cabaret Voltaire and Pere Ubu in America. And you literally had your own fucking Facebook before Facebook, if you know. But
we used to write letters, postcards, whatever. That's how we communicated.
And I said, I'm going over to see you live. And he went, where are you going to stay? I said, I'll sleep in the train station. And he says, no, stay in our place. So I became a friend of his.
Yeah.
And he would not put us together. And then in the 80s, when Brick Smith joined the band, she was a big Virgin Prune fan. And she says, you got to get Gavin in to sing. And I'm proud to say I was the only other singer on a full
Yeah.
record ever
Yeah.
to
Oh.
Yeah.
recording session.
It was always nice to me, and that was not his usual nature.
No, he was always nice to me, and everyone go, why is he a fucking bastard to everyone? But
Well,
he, yeah,
just was. We
yeah, he
say,
was. Yeah,
kind of just was.
he was.
Maybe it was the alcohol. I don't know, but he just kind of was a dick. But always nice to me, I have to say.
Yeah, what a writer. I mean,
Yeah.
gee, you could have a thesis on a couplet he's written. He's so.
And that brings me to you. Have you ever thought of publishing, or have you, a book of your lyrics,
This talk of
accompanied
that.
by your paintings? Yeah.
Yeah, I met a guy just at the show there in Dublin. Klaus is his name, and he wants to put out paintings and handwritten lyrics. And I
Did I
like
pull
it.
that out of your? Did I pull that out of your non-glittered head, Gavin? I think I did.
Yes, yes, but
It's mandatory. That'd be
but yeah,
fabulous.
I mean, I'm a bit nervous of a biography and all that, but we wait and see. I don't know. I don't know.
But you got the lyrics. I mean, the lyrics are you know what I
Yeah,
mean.
and you can talk on stage. How about that being a book?
Tell me about it. I certainly can. I'm reading. Had to sign an NDA. Budgie's book, which will be out in July,
Wow.
which is quite beautifully written. Yeah, I'm not to the really juicy bits yet, but I'm getting there.
Not met him for many years, but what a gentleman. He's a
Oh,
gentle.
such a nice
Very
guy.
nice.
He once played with Retrovirus Suite because we did Frankie Teardrop for years, and you also did a suicide. I mean, now I'm doing the suicide tribute all over Europe. I've been doing this for a while, whole suicide set. But who was I talking about now? Hang on a second. Frankie Teardrop. Budgie. He once played maracas with us on Frankie Teardrop, which is a 10-minute long version. It tired him out, and he doesn't get tired. His last album was also fantastic.
Well,
Budgie.
yeah, and he made a record with an Irish guy, Jackknife Lee, didn't he? And the guy from The Cure.
Yeah, that one was really great with various singers. It was excellent.
Yeah.
So here we are. We're still throbbing away. Our
Yeah.
blood still burns, which is why we have to take it out on the stage before we really commit something. Keep it in an art format for now, because we have to do it. You're the 300th episode of the Lydian Spin.
whoa.
This is kind of a landmark.
300.
Yeah,
That's
confetti's
We're
gonna
number
come in.
300.
Confetti's gonna come down. You're gonna get like balloons. They're gonna come out of the come through the door right now.
I'm sorry I'm not wearing balloons, but you can't see them, but I have them anyway. They're always inflated. I'm very excited about our continuation. I'm very happy to have the Lydian Spin as a way to just, having been so often on the other side of the microphone, just being able to do these conversations with people that matter, that are stubborn, that are relentless, that are diverse, and divisive to some, I would say. We're just too much, but no, we're not. We're what we are. Ecce Homo is what your new album is called.
And we won't change.
And we won't change.